Hello, my little loves. Welcome to Bedtime with Mama. Tonight we have a very sweet story all about family. Tonight we're going to read Once Upon a Time, Encanto, the Gift of Family. Years ago, when Alma and Pedro Madrigal became parents, Pedro promised they would leave their troubled world behind and build a better life for their family. They bundled up their triplets, and by the light of a single candle, the young couple left in search of a new home. A group of others joined them on their journey, but as they reached a rushing river, the danger they were trying to escape caught up to them. Pedro turned back to fend it off, but did not return. Alma fell to her knees and wished for a way out. Suddenly, the candle bloomed with magic. Pedro's promise was kept as their new home emerged inside a safe place full of wonder and encanto. A house lovingly called Casita grew around Alma and her babies, surrounding them in protective love and magic. Over the years, the candle burned brightly, and the magic grew in unexpected ways. The magical children and grandchildren were blessed with special gifts. When the time was right, each child received a glowing door and discovered their own unique bit of magic. It was important to Alma, who was now an abuela, that they earn the miracle and fulfill Pedro's promise. Each family member proudly shared their gift with the villagers. Soon it was Mirabel's turn to receive her gift. She was Abuela's youngest granddaughter. But 10 years later, the Madrigals were preparing for another gift day, the first since Mirabel's. That night, her youngest cousin Antonio would walk up to his door and receive his own unique gift. All the family were helping to prepare their home for the ceremony, including Mirabel's older two sisters. They were putting their gifts to good use. Luisa used her super strength, and Isabel made the flowers bloom. Mirabel, meanwhile, Mirabel helped the best she could. That's because on Mirabel's gift day, her door disappeared and she never received a gift. She was the only ordinary member of an extraordinary family. Julieta and Agustin, Mirabel's parents, reassured her and told her not to overdo it, and that she had nothing to prove to anyone. Evening came, and it was soon time for Antonio to walk up the steps towards his door. Nervous, Antonio reached out to Mirabel. "I need you," said Antonio, motioning for Mirabel to take his hand once more. As they walked up the stairs, the memory of Mirabel's gift day came flooding back to her. Despite the painful memories, Mirabel continued walking with Antonio. Each step felt like forever to her, but they finally reached her cousin's door. Nervously, Antonio placed his hand on the doorknob. Moments later, Mirabel's young cousin was filled with magic, and dozens of animals flocked toward him. Antonio was now able to talk to animals. As the rest of the family celebrated with Antonio, Mirabel wanted to be alone. Although she was happy for her young cousin, Mirabel longed to have a shining moment of her own and wished she had a special gift to share. As she wandered through the courtyard, a tile fell from the roof, crashing down next to her. She picked it up to check it, but cut her hand on its sharp edge. Suddenly, cracks and splinters ripped through the house. Mirabel rushed to her family, who were all still celebrating in Antonio's room. "The house is in danger!" cried Mirabel. Everyone stopped and stared at her. Wondering what Mirabel was worried about, Abuela asked her to show them the damage. But there was nothing to see. No cracks, no splinters, nothing. Abuela glanced at Mirabel, a disappointed look in her eyes, before addressing the family. Her voice was full of confidence as she explained there was nothing wrong with La Casa Madrigal. That night, Mirabel couldn't sleep. Instead, she went out onto the tiled roof close to Abuela's window. She placed her hand on the wall. Everything still seemed fine. Then Mirabel heard Abuela talking to a picture of Pedro. Abuela knew their home and magic were in danger, just like her son Bruno, whose gift was the ability to see visions of the future, had predicted. Bruno had left the family years ago, and no one knew where he had gone to, although he still had a room in the tower at their home that had been left empty. Mirabel was lost in thought as she listened to Abuela confess her worries to the picture of her husband. Mirabel knew what she had to do. It was up to her to save the magic and the family. She reassured their home, Casita, that she would do everything she possibly could, although she wasn't really sure where to begin. "I have no idea how to save the house," she admitted. The next day, Mirabel learned from her sister, Dolores, her older cousin with super hearing, that Luisa was up all night sweating. Luisa never sweated, so Mirabel decided to question her sister. Luisa eventually admitted that she felt under a lot of pressure, and that she might have felt the cracks too. Luisa told Mirabel she worried of losing her super strength, the only thing that had made her useful. Mirabel simply wrapped her big arms around her sister in a hug. "I think you really need a break," she said. Luisa squeezed back very tightly. "You want to find a secret about the magic? Go to Bruno's towers. Find his last vision." "Vision? Vision of what?" asked Mirabel. "No one knows. They never found it," answered Luisa. Mirabel went back to the casita and headed towards Bruno's tower. On her way, she noticed the candle. Its eternal flame was starting to flicker. Quickening her pace, she soon found herself in the room where a stream of sand fell from a hole in the ceiling. Mirabel noticed several emerald pieces within the sand. As she picked them up and pieced them together, the room began to shake, and cracks appeared all around. Mirabel only managed to escape before the sand, which was pouring much faster now, could block her way out. On the way back to her room, Mirabel realized she had to hurry up and find the answer she needed. Luisa was starting to lose her gift. She was struggling to even open a jar. Mirabel studied the emerald pieces again, putting them together like a jigsaw, and she was finally able to see Bruno's vision. The one Abuela was so worried about. It showed Casita with cracks all through it, and the vision's center was Mirabel. Suddenly, Mirabel's father appeared. He was about to tell her it was time for the family's special dinner with the Guzmans, the son who was going to propose to Isabel. When he spotted the vision, Mirabel explained what had happened. Shocked by what his daughter had told him, Augustin quickly took the vision from Mirabel and told her not to say anything. During the dinner, Mirabel saw the rats carrying off the vision pieces. She followed them to a dark corridor. Suddenly, a flash of lightning revealed her uncle Bruno. Their eyes met for a single moment before he raced off. Mirabel soon caught up with him. Bruno now lived in a new room hidden in the house, away from everyone. He felt it was better for them all to think he had left, especially as he felt his visions weren't helping the family, only upsetting them. Mirabel understood how he was feeling and how similar they were. She too felt like she had nothing left to offer the family other than disappointment. Bruno told Mirabel that the vision she saw, with her at the center of everything, wasn't finished. He'd paused the vision and smashed it into pieces before finding out the end. He was worried it would confirm Abuela's fears about Mirabel's negative effect on the family's magic. While he didn't know exactly how the vision would end, he did offer Mirabel a guess. The fate of our entire family is gonna come down to you. Moments later, Antonio and all his animal friends showed up. Pico and the others had told Antonio everything about Mirabel, at everything that Mirabel had been up to with the shards and finding Bruno. Her young cousin was ready to help. Mirabel decided now was the time to take the next steps in her plan to save the family. She needed Bruno to have another vision. Bruno said they needed a big space, and Antonio offered his bedroom. Mirabel encouraged Bruno, holding his hand, and he brought her into the vision. When it grew dark, Bruno wanted to end it, but Mirabel gave his hand a supportive squeeze and said, "The family needs you." As magic glowed around him, a vision in emerald appeared. It showed Mirabel and Isabel hugging. "Embrace her, and you will see the way," said Bruno. Mirabel went to see Isabel. Just like when she spoke to Louisa, Mirabel found out just how much pressure Isabel felt to be exactly what her family needed her to be, the pressure to be perfect. As Mirabel encouraged Isabel to express her true self, her sister began to create not just fabulous flowers, but beautiful cactuses too. As Isabel's powers flourished like never before, Mirabel noticed the candle in Abuela's room burn brighter than it had done for a long time. The plants and cactus grew around the house. They were beautiful. Isabel had just begun to hug Mirabel when, "What have you done?" cried Abuela. She couldn't see that Mirabel had helped Isabel finally be herself. Abuela only saw her young granddaughter as the root of all the troubles the Madrigals were facing. "Our home is dying because of you," she cried. A tremor shook the entire Encanto. Mirabel told her grandmother the house was dying because no one in the family would ever be good enough for their Abuela. Suddenly, the house began to collapse all around them. Mirabel made a dash for the candle, but soon she stood in the center of a pile of rubble as the house was no more. The candle was simply ash in Mirabel's hands. Devastated by what she believed was her fault, Mirabel ran away from the Encanto. Mirabel made it as far as the river. Abuela had crossed all those years ago with her husband, with 3 triplets and all the villagers. She looked at her reflection in the water, feeling lost and alone. A moment later, Abuela arrived. Mirabel's grandmother explained the last time she'd been at this river was when her husband Pedro died, and the day the Encanto was made. Ever since that day, Abuela admitted she had been afraid, and that fear had led her to push her family harder and harder, not realizing the danger she was causing. Abuela admitted she'd been the one to break the family, not Mirabel. "I asked my Pedro for help," she said Abuela. "Mirabel, he sent you to me." The pair embraced, understanding that together they could put things right. Golden butterflies began to fly around them. Just as Bruno arrived, to his surprise, Abuela hugged him too. The trio rode back to the Encanto. "We're gonna be okay," Mirabel told the family. She explained how they aren't just defined by what they show on the outside. It's also who they are on the inside that counts too. Abuela agreed. One by one, the Madrigals started to talk about their concerns and their worries. As they became more confident in expressing how they truly felt, the magic began to glow bright again. Soon, everyone began rebuilding Casita. Mirabel placed the final piece, the front doorknob, on the door. Whoosh! The house came back to life in a fabulous flourish, sending an explosion of butterflies whizzing over the entire Encanto, mending the cracks and restoring the magic, including all the Madrigal family's gifts. The family surrounded Mirabel in a loving embrace. Although they weren't the perfect family, the Madrigals cared for each other very much, and Mirabel finally knew she was where she truly belonged. The end. What a sweet, sweet story. Family is so important, and it's also so important to talk to your family or your trusted friends or adults about how you're feeling, especially when you're not feeling your best, which is all totally normal. I hope that you tonight are feeling your best and you're feeling truly at home. I hope you have the sweetest of dreams tonight.